steps into it. Pass is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable!
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal. Touchdown! Kansas City! Damian Williams runs to immortality and will be remembered forever in the Chiefs' kingdom.
Yes, hello everybody and welcome in again to another Sunday night here on KC Radio 97.7 FM. My name's Brent Sternberg and this is Talkin American Footy, where we're back again for another Sunday night and we're going to dissect all the goings on in an NFL season that is, or has I should say, reached the halfway mark with week 8 coming up tomorrow. Started of course on Friday morning, but the rest of the games to play out tomorrow and Tuesday morning as well. Halloween has come and gone. Halloween yesterday. I hope you had a good Halloween for all of my friends out there that celebrate Halloween. I know there's quite a few of them. I don't, but I know that's a lot of people's. That's their bag, Halloween, and they love it. In terms of the NFL season, Halloween is normally the sort of point of the year where teams start to fall away and the contenders start to emerge and start to put their foot down, and that's certainly starting to happen in season 2020. It's no different. We're going to have a look at the games tomorrow in week 8 and have a look back as well, Thursday night football from week 8. But before we do that, as we normally do here on Talkin American Footy, we're going to cast our mind back to week 7 and all the way back to Thursday night, Friday morning, our time last week. Philadelphia and the New York Giants played, and it was the Eagles who won that one 22-21. They were behind. They rallied 21. They rallied from behind, I should say. They were down 21-10, Philadelphia, and they managed to get the win there. I did touch on this one last week. I mentioned it was the Eagles' 8th consecutive win against the New York Giants, and the Eagles with that win go to 2-4-1, and they're in the thick of that division, which is not a great division at all. 1-6, the Giants. Now, I have a stat on this division, which I will mention later, which really paints the picture as to how bad this division has been this year. But I'll get to that a little later on. The Sunday games, the big one there, Pittsburgh and Tennessee, the two undefeated teams. Pittsburgh came out on top in that one, 27-24, and they now stand alone as the only undefeated team in the league, and they go to 6-0, the Steelers, for the first time since 1978. They're led by 20-plus points in this game, and the Steelers are now 225-0-1 with a tie there all time, including the playoffs in their history. So they have never lost when they've led in a game by 20 points or more. Stephen Gostkowski had that opportunity to tie that one with a field goal late, and that one went wide right. So a missed opportunity at home for the Titans, who allowed the Steelers to convert on 13 of 18 third down. So that's where the game was won and lost for the Titans, unfortunately, who suffered their first loss at home. Washington and Dallas, bad day for the Cowboys. Washington at home beat them 25-3. Dallas, 142 net yards, which was their fewest in a game since week 1, 2001. So this is a season that's gone down the toilet quickly for the Cowboys. Andy Dalton in at quarterback there. He was in at quarterback there, I should say. He was knocked out of this game on an illegal hit by Washington linebacker John Bostic. So he went out of the game. And after that game, Mike McCarthy called out his own team for not rallying around Andy Dalton after that hit. So that was an interesting stance there from Mike McCarthy. Washington running back Antonio Gibson ran for 128 yards and a touchdown in a good win for Washington, 25-3 winners there. Buffalo were back on track against the New York Jets, 18-10 winners there. The Bills, the Jets are 0-6 for the second time, first time since 1996. Buffalo, they did fall behind by 10 points in the first half, and they actually failed to score a touchdown in this one. Instead, they relied on 6 Tyler Bass, or Bass, I should say, field goals across 8 attempts. So 6 of 8, Tyler Bass, the kicker there, to account for all of their points. So all 18 points come on field goals. So who said you don't win games kicking field goals? The Bills back on the winners list, 18-10 winners over the Jets. New Orleans, they were back off the bye and they beat Carolina 27-24. The Saints now have won 6 of the last 7 against the Panthers. Breeze 3 touchdowns and he threw for 287 yards, connecting with 8 different receivers. So good performance there from Drew Brees. Carolina, their ability to go punch to punch, or stride for stride, I should say, with the Saints in the Superdome, it confirms what we already know. They're a good team. The Panthers are a better team than what we thought they would be, but they're still just lacking and not able to go with the big boys. Christian McCaffrey didn't play last week, but he's back off injured reserve. So his return is imminent. And there was a bad play from Teddy Bridgewater where he took a sack late in that game, and it took the kicker Joey Sly out of field goal range. So got to be better than that, Teddy. And the Panthers that cost them an opportunity to tie that one, and they go down at the hands of the Saints. Green Bay Packers, they beat Houston 35-20. They made light work of the Texans. The Packers 6-0 now all time versus Houston, never lost to the Texans. And when Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams are locked in, they're locked in. They turned 16 targets into 13 catches for 196 yards and 2 touchdowns when Aaron Rodgers was throwing to Devontae Adams. And Deshaun Watson and J.J. Watt after the game, they were really outspoken and really frustrated in what is a frustrating season for the Texans. Cincinnati and Cleveland played again, and again it was Cleveland victorious, 37-34 in that one. Mayfield 5 touchdown passes in that one. That's the most in Cleveland history, the equal most in one game, 5 touchdown passes. He didn't complete a pass in the first quarter and went for 0 for 5 on his first 5 passes. And then ended up throwing 5 touchdown passes, which, like I said, was the equal record, and he did that in 3 quarters. And Mayfield, he's tied the Browns' record now for the most passing touchdowns in a single game, like I said, while Joe Burrow in that one became the first rookie quarterback in NFL history with 400-plus passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown in a single game. But unfortunately, they couldn't get the job done there. The Bengals... And they led actually they led, I think, at each main break, and then trailed when the clock counted down to 0. So really disappointing there. The Bengals. That's another close loss that they have surrendered. Detroit, they beat Atlanta 23-22. Atlanta went to 1-6 for the second straight season. And they escaped here. Detroit. Todd Gurley, his inability to stop his momentum going into the end zone there. He didn't want to, but he just couldn't pull up. So into the end zone he went. He scored, and that allowed Detroit to get the ball back. And Stafford, he guided the Lions all the way down the field. 75-yard drive. Didn't have any timeouts as well. So the final drive there for Matt Stafford, he come up clutch and got Detroit over the line in that one, and it possibly saved the Lions' season. They got back to 3-3 with that one. Tampa Bay, they beat the Raiders 45-20. And Tom Brady, just enormous. He's having a great season. The most passing touchdowns by a Bucs quarterback through the first 7 games with 18. So he's on fire. Another player on defense that's on fire for the Bucs, Devin White. He was everywhere in this one. He finished with 9 solo tackles, 3 sacks, and 1 tackle for loss. I wonder how the Raiders are feeling about Devin White playing so well, given the fact that they took Cleve Ferrell 1 pick earlier before Devin White in the draft a couple of years ago. Tom Brady, 369 yards and 4 touchdowns. Tampa Bay, are they the best team in the NFC? I'll talk about them a little bit more later on, but I reckon there's a case to be made. They're going along swimmingly. The LA Chargers, they're back on the winners list. They beat Jacksonville 39-29, and that's the first ever time we've seen that score line in the NFL. Scoregami, they call that. So a good win there for the Chargers. It's Justin Herbert's first career win, and he had career highs in passing yards with 347 and rushing yards, 66. And those 66 rushing yards were actually the most by a Chargers quarterback in a game ever. So well done, Justin Herbert. They jumped out to an early lead, the Chargers, and then they fell behind in the third quarter before Justin Herbert led an explosive little period for the Chargers that yielded 20 points in the last 5.5 minutes of that game. So a really good win there for the Chargers. Jacksonville now, they hit their bye week coming off 6 straight losses. So it's starting to dwindle away this season for the Jags post Halloween. San Francisco, they are back from the dead, 33-6 winners over the Patriots in New England. What a great win. New England, they're 2-4 now through 6 weeks, or through 6 games, I should say, for the first time since the year 2000. And there's some issues with Cam Newton. He finished 9 of 15 for 98 yards, didn't throw a touchdown, and had 3 really bad interceptions. And he was put out of his misery in that one in the last quarter when Bill Belichick benched him and brought in Jarrett Stidham. The Niners, they beat the Patriots on the yardage front, 467 to 240 yards. So this was a slacking. So back-to-back quality wins for the Patriots over the Rams 2 weeks ago, and then the Patriots last week. Kansas City and Denver, they played at Mile High Stadium in the snow, and the Chiefs were victorious in that one, 43 to 16. They've won 10 straight games against the Broncos now, Kansas City. And they did it without Patrick Mahomes really putting this team on his back like he sometimes does. Daniel Sorensen had a pick 6. Byron Pringle had a 102-yard kickoff return, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he ran through 4 would-be tacklers on one of his touchdown runs. So they're getting the lesser like standing up, the Chiefs. In fact, Mahomes, he managed only 1 touchdown pass and 200 yards through the air, and failed to record a single third down conversion. Can you believe that? And they still scored 43 points. So a good day for the Chiefs and a bad day for the Broncos. Drew Lock, he was running for his life back there for the Broncos with the Chiefs coming after him. Sunday night football, this was a beauty. It went to overtime. This was the game that was flexed into the Sunday night football time slot. Arizona, they beat Seattle 37 to 34 in overtime. Tyler Lockett, 200 receiving yards. That's the second most in Seattle history. He's having quietly a good year, Tyler Lockett. The Seahawks and Cardinals, they played 69 minutes and 45 seconds of football, and Seattle didn't trail for a single second until Arizona kicker Zane Gonzalez kicked a 48-yard field goal that went through the uprights with 15 seconds left in overtime to win the game. So they never trailed Seattle until Arizona got their noses in front right at the end. And Sunday night, it's a reminder that Seattle, they need to be more well-rounded. They've got Russell Wilson, who can keep them in games and win them games on his own, but if he's a little bit off, they need to be able to find more ways to win, starting with playing good defense. The Cardinals, they rolled up 519 yards on the Seahawks defense, and they've become the first team this season to hand Seattle their loss, their first loss of the year. Can I just say, Larry Fitzgerald, he and Ray Rice are now the only players in NFL history with 1,400 or more career receptions. And they are also the only players in NFL history with more than 250, I should say, plus consecutive games with a reception. Larry Fitzgerald has 250. Jerry Rice had 274. So he probably won't catch him, Larry Fitzgerald, but he's in good company. And the 11-time Pro Bowler has caught a pass now from 22 different quarterbacks, which is the most by any receiver over the last 30 years. So well done, Larry Fitzgerald. A good night for him and a good night for the Cardinals. 37-34 winners in overtime. Monday night football, the Rams at home beat Chicago 24-10. The Rams are now 15-4 at home since 2018. Leonard Floyd for the Rams, of course, a former first-round pick for Chicago. He had 2 of the Rams' 4 sacks, and Jalen Ramsey come down with a game-sealing interception in the fourth quarter. So a couple of their big names there coming up with plays, or certainly with Jalen Ramsey. The Bears, they just couldn't get anything going on Monday night. They were held to just 279 yards with little hope of success on the rare occasion that they did, in fact, to go into the end zone. Johnny Hecker had 5 punts for the Rams, each down inside the 10-yard line in a low-scoring affair. So let's give some love to Johnny Hecker in a good performance in a low-scoring and tie-in-ish sort of game. Although the Rams, they ended up winning by 2 scores, so not that close in the end. The Bears, it's an average Bears team that just boasts a very good defense, but it's a mediocre offense that I don't think they'll be able to be able to overcome. And the Bears run into the Saints next week, so we'll see how they go there. But Chicago 5-2, I think, but not convinced. My biggest winner from week 7 was Arizona. I think that was a huge win for them at home. A divisional win over the previously undefeated Seattle. I thought that was a great performance. And to just battle that one and fight that one out and take that game right to the end. It went to overtime. Like I said, they were never in front until Zane Gonzalez kicked that field goal and put them in front. So just a really gritty, good performance from Arizona. And the biggest loser for me, maybe a little bit tough, but Tennessee at home. I thought they had an opportunity to make another statement and beat Pittsburgh, the other undefeated team, at home, and they were really sluggish out of the blocks, and they ended up going down in that one. They had an opportunity to tie it, and they couldn't take it. So shot themselves in the foot, Tennessee, and they'll be really disappointed with that one. The teams on the bye last week were Baltimore, Miami, Minnesota, and Indianapolis. All of those teams will return this week in week 8, and I'm going to turn my attention to week 8 when we return after this short break on KC Radio 97.7 FM. You're listening to Talkin American Footy with me, Brent Sternberg. Back in a bit. Welcome back, gang. You're listening to Talkin American Footy on this Sunday night, KC Radio 97.7 FM, and I'm Brent Sternberg. And before the break, I had a look at all of the games that took place last week in week 7, and we turn our attention now to week 8, which is the unofficial halfway mark of the season, and is a really important week, of course, because the trade deadline is Tuesday. So it'll be Wednesday morning Australian time, but it's October 3. So this round or week, I should say, will happen, and then we'll have the trade deadline. So there may be some crazy stuff happen with trades between now and then. Like I said before the break, week 8 kicked off on Thursday Night Football. The Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers were in action in that one. A NFC South divisional match, and it was the Atlanta Falcons who got one back on the Panthers, who beat them earlier this year. This one was in Carolina, so it was a good win for the Falcons on the road on a short week to a divisional opponent. They go to 2-6 now, the Falcons. They beat the Panthers 25-17. And the Panthers, who looked like they had a good thing going, they've just sort of got the wobbles a little bit. They're 3-5. Teddy Bridgewater was knocked out of this game in the third quarter, I think. A really dirty play from Charles Harris, which was not a good play at all. He was already going down, Teddy, and Harris sort of hit him from behind, leading with the crown of his helmet. So he may have a case to answer there, Charles Harris. Julio Jones was the other big story. He had a massive night. He's been struggling with a hamstring injury a little bit, but he had 7 catches and 137 yards. Didn't have a score, but he was one of the most important players on the field for the Falcons, who got their second win of the season. And it doesn't look like their season's going to amount to too much, but they need to just start to sort of get some wins together, the Falcons, and just feel a bit better about themselves. That was Thursday Night Football. The Falcons 8-point winners over the Panthers. Okay, let's go to the 1 p.m. games on tomorrow morning. Of course, the times now move from 4 a.m. to 5 a.m., so we get an extra hours of sleep before we get up and watch our teams. And this first one that I'll have a look at is going to be a beauty. The Pittsburgh Steelers, like I said, the last remaining undefeated team, 6-0 at Baltimore. One of the best rivalries in the league right now, the Steelers and the Ravens. And the Ravens go into this one 5-1. So one loss between the two. And it's I suspect it's the battle for the first place in the AFC North, and maybe not just the AFC North, maybe the whole damn conference. So this will be a beauty in Baltimore. Like I said, Ben Roethlisberger, he had an up and down day against the Titans, and he threw 3 interceptions. But they were good enough, the Steelers, and their defense played really well too in the first half, and they come up with some stops and some plays, and they absolutely shut down Derrick Henry, and that allowed their offense to sort of stay out on the field and do their thing. Deontay Johnson, he had 2 first half touchdown reception in his return back from a back injury. So he's having a good year. The second year man there out of Temple, I think, or no, Tulane, I believe. So a good young receiver there. The Baltimore defense, they entered the week 7 bye week. In the top of the NFL in points allowed per game, 17.3, and tied for second in sacks, 22. And then they traded for Yannick Ngakoue last week from the Vikings, so they've got another good pass rusher there. The Vikings only just traded for him a few weeks ago, and now he's gone again to his second team this season. This is going to be a really good game and a really important game, and I'm not sure how the Steelers can keep backing up in these big games. I'm gonna pick Baltimore off the bye week at home, but I'm not real confident. But this is going to be a real ding-dong battle like it always is between these two. The LA Rams are back out on the East Coast. They play the Miami Dolphins, where Tua Tagovailoa will make his first career start in aqua and orange for the Miami Dolphins, who are 3-3 coming off their bye week, and they're not out of the division with Buffalo starting to stumble a little bit, and the wheels are falling off for the Patriots a little bit too. So it's an interesting time to make this move when they're within the division, and now they bring the rookie in to see what they've got. And the Rams are back out on the East Coast, of course, before they go into their bye week next week, coming off a home game and a good win on Monday Night Football over the Chicago Bears. They're 5-2, and they're well and truly within the fight there in their division as well. Difficult one to pick, this one. I hope that the Dolphins offensive line look after Aaron Donald. You don't want Donald coming at Tua with his lower limb issues that he's had throughout his college career. I'm going to pick the Rams on the road, but I'm excited to see how Tua goes on debut. The New York Jets, they go to Kansas City to play the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs 6-1, the Jets are 0-6. 19.5 points is the spread in this one, and that's the biggest or the largest point spread so far this season. Kansas City have allowed fewer than 20 points in 6 of the last 7 games. And like I said when talking about the Chiefs earlier, Mahomes managed just 1 touchdown pass and 200 yards through the air, but Kansas City still managed to put up 40 points. So I don't see how the Jets are going to be able to stop these guys. Adam Gase, he relinquished the play-calling duties last week to Dow Laganes. I think that's how you say it. And that didn't really reap any sort of dividends. They were just as bad as normal. The Jets, they did jump out, though, to a 10-point lead in the second quarter, but the offense was completely shut down after halftime. Sam Darnold, he was sacked 6 times and threw 2 interceptions in his return from a shoulder injury, and the Jets managed 4 total yards on 16 plays in the second half. That is not a typo. That is real. 4 total yards on 16 plays in the second half. I think that the Jets get beaten up badly in this one to Kansas City. Minnesota and Green Bay, they play each other for the second time. The Packers 5-1, the Vikings 1-5. Packers have won 3 straight against the Vikings. I said earlier, Devontae Adams, he finished with the most receiving yards by a Green Bay player in a game since Jordy Nelson's 209 yards in week 2 of 2014. It was a really good team performance from the Packers, who put a disappointing loss the week before to the Bucs in the rearview mirror. Minnesota, they look like they're going to welcome back Delvin Cook, which is good for them, but they've got Danielle Hunter, who hasn't played this year, and he won't play. He was put on IR during the week. So with Danielle Hunter on IR and trading away Yannick Ngakoue, this has the smell of a team that might have thrown in the towel, I think, for season 2020. Indianapolis at Detroit is the next one. Detroit have clawed their way back to 3-3. The Colts 4-2. Detroit have lost 6 straight home games, which is the longest current streak in the NFL, this game in Motown. Matt Stafford led them on that drive, 75-yard drive that spanned just 64 seconds, and they did it without the aid of a timeout. So a really close run thing there for Detroit, but they get another win and they're back to 3-3, and the schedule lightens up for the Lions. They play at Minnesota next week, then Washington, then at Carolina, and then Houston. So if they want to make a move in this season and get back into this season, now is their chance. Indianapolis, they're coming off the bye. In their 4 wins this year, Rivers has thrown for 992 yards with 6 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. In their 2 losses, he's thrown for only 662 yards and just 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions. So they go how Phillip Rivers goes, the Colts, and I think they're going to go down in this one. I reckon Detroit are going to go above 500 for the first time this year and get a good win at home. The Raiders and the Browns is the next one. They're in Cleveland after starting the game 0 for 5 with an interception on his very first throw. Baker Mayfield, he completed 22 of his final 23 attempts. The only incompletion was actually a spike to stop the clock. For the Browns, bad news. They lose Odell Beckham with a torn ACL. He won't be back. So that's an absolute dagger for the Browns in this one. The Raiders, their entire offensive line missed practice time last week due to COVID precautions, and you suspected that they, as a result of that, might be a bit sluggish. But the offense was sluggish. They posted season lows in total yards, 347, rushing yards 76, and first downs 19, while tying a season low in points scored with just 20. But their defense was even worse. Brady, he feasted on the Raiders D in a 45-20 thumping. And the Raiders have now allowed 30 or more points in 4 straight games, and 5 of 6 games they've allowed 30 points. So only Dallas with 34.7 points per game are giving up more points. So they've got to do something about that. The Raiders, and this is a defense that they've spent 5 first-round picks. They've got 5 first-round picks on that defense. So something's got to give. Cleveland are 5-2. The Raiders 3-3. It's in Cleveland. I think Cleveland win and go to 6-2 and make a playoff spot look a little bit more likely with each passing win. Tennessee 5-1. They go to Cincinnati, who are 5-1. This will be an interesting one. The Bengals. There were 5 go-ahead touchdown passes in the fourth quarter last week against the Browns. Mayfield had 3, Burrow had 2, and that was the most in a final quarter in NFL history. It was the Bengals' third loss in a season, this season, in a game in which they entered the fourth quarter with a lead. So they just can't win the close ones. They traded Carlos Dunlap during the week to Seattle for a 7th rounder, and in return they also got the 7th rounder and offensive lineman BJ Finney. The Bengals, they're 5-1. They led at the end of the first quarter, second quarter, and third quarter, like I said, and rookie quarterback Joe Burrow, he delivered another inspired performance, 406 yards, 3 touchdowns, one pick, a rushing touchdown, but just couldn't get it done with Cincinnati trailing by 4 points with 5 minutes remaining in the last quarter. Burrow guided the Bengals on a 10-play, 75-yard drive that culminated in a 4th down touchdown pass to Bernard with a minute left. But they still found a way to lose that one. Cincinnati 133.7 rushing yards allowed in each game this season, which is the 5th most, and it's bad news with Derrick Henry coming to town. And Tennessee, like I said, they were in a position to tie the game, but they missed the field goal. Interesting little run coming up as well for the Titans after this one against Cincinnati. They play at home to Chicago, then they've got Indianapolis, then they go away to play Baltimore, and then they're on the road to play Indianapolis again. So, a tricky little schedule for the Titans. And the final game in the early slot is a big one in the AFC East. New England 2-4 at Buffalo 5-2. 2 teams gunning obviously for a division title here, I should say. The Patriots 12 points or fewer in 3 straight games. They've got no semblance of offense going at the moment with Cam Newton. He threw 3 interceptions and managed just 98 passing yards before being benched last week. Interesting to see if he starts tomorrow. Julian Edelman is out as well. And all the struggles they're having with Cam Newton, that's with the backdrop of Tom Brady playing really well in Tampa Bay as well. So not real good times for New England. Buffalo, their long-delayed rise of the defense come about last week. They dominated the second half to snap a 2-game losing skid, and the defense allowed just 4 yards in the second half. Like I said before, that's an incredible stat. Led by Jerry Hughes, who come down with a game-sealing interception. He's been one of the most underrated defensive players of the last sort of decade, I reckon, Jerry Hughes. That's the early slate, gang. When I return, I'll have a look at the mid-afternoon games on Sunday and Monday night football when we return on Talkin American Footy with me, Brent Sternberg, KC Radio 97.7 FM, back in a bit. Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Talkin American Footy with me, Brent Sternberg, here on this Sunday night on KC Radio 97.7 FM, where we've been going through the Week 8 slate of games tomorrow morning before the break. We went through and had a look at the games in the early time slot, which are on at 5 a.m. tomorrow. So they've gone from 3 a.m. at the beginning of the season to daylight savings, making it around to 4 a.m. And now we go to 5 a.m. So I always feel like that's a little bit more friendly time getting up at 5 a.m. Much better than 3 or 4 a.m. It's only a matter of the difference, a couple of hours, but you feel it. You feel it later on that day when you've been up since 4 or 3 a.m. watching your team hopefully win. So these are the mid-afternoon games. This first one here on at 8:05, and it's the LA Chargers fresh off their second win of the season there at Mile High Stadium. So it's Denver having another home game and another home divisional game. This time the Chargers are the team who come to town. Two teams who are 2-4, but it's a very different feeling 2-4 for both these two teams. Denver feel like they're slipping away, and the Chargers, they feel like they've still got some more to say in this season with with Justin Herbert playing really well. They've been banged up with injuries a little bit, but they can get on a run and cause some damage as this season wears on. Denver, though, have won 3 of the last 4 games against the Chargers, and they'll be looking to do so again here at home. Drew Lock, he was part of the problem last week, and I don't think it's that unfair to start to sort of think, has John Elway again misjudged or misevaluated his quarterback room? I think he showed some good signs late last season, but he hasn't. Drew Lock, that is, but he hasn't looked like that sort of player and looked like he's developed at all this year. I know it's been a strange off season, and it's difficult to expect players and especially young players to come along in leaps and bounds after what happened in the off season. But he looked really poor last week against Kansas City. A young quarterback who did not look poor on Sunday last week, and that was Justin Herbert, who became the first rookie quarterback ever with 300 plus passing yards and 50 or more rushing yards in a win. The most since 1950. So that may as well have been ever, because the quarterback position was a very different position back then. So since 1950, first quarterback with 300 or more passing yards, 50 rushing yards in a win. So he's a great young player, Justin Herbert. I keep heaping praise on him. He also joined Hall of Famer Dan Marino as the only 2 quarterbacks in the Super Bowl era with an 85-plus passer rating in each of his first 5 NFL starts. So there wasn't a whole lot of buzz around Justin Herbert coming into or going through the draft process. It was certainly about Joe Burrow and Tua as well with the injury, but the Chargers just sat there nicely at pick 6, I think, and took Justin Herbert, and they've found a guy. The Chargers, their next 4, they've got another divisional game after this against the Raiders back at home. Then they go out to the East Coast to play Miami. Then they've got the Jets, and then they've got the Buffalo Bills. So 3 games on the bounce against AFC East divisional opponent. So there's a chance here for the Chargers to rattle off some wins and really build into this season. I think that they will win this game. I always say it's difficult to pick against Denver in Denver because they just seem to always play so well at home, but they're not playing well at the moment. And I think the Chargers will win this one. At 8:25, we've got another divisional matchup. There's some really good divisional matchups this week and some really important ones. And this one is 2, and it's San Francisco at Seattle. Seattle suffering their first loss last week. They're 5-1 now. San Francisco, off the back of 2 really big wins, moved to 4-3. Seattle, they currently sit alone as the 2nd seed in the NFC. Tied with Green Bay, I think, both 5-1. But they have the tiebreaker there, Seattle. So they're currently sitting in the 2nd seed spot. Against the Cardinals last week, Russell Wilson and the offense, they sputtered out in the final quarter. And then into that overtime period against Arizona, and the defense, which they've been unable to rely on the safety net that it had enjoyed all year, that being the great offense led by Russell Wilson. They failed to rise to the occasion, the defense, in a 37-34 loss. Kyler Murray, he wasn't sacked once as the Cardinals rolled up over 500 yards of offense, and they wiped out a 10-point deficit in the final 5 minutes of regulation in that game. So they need all the help that they can get on defense. Seattle, they really are a lopsided, I should say, football team, and you can see why they traded for Carlos Dunlap. I mentioned that before the break, that they've traded with Cincinnati, have the Seahawks for the pass rusher there in Carlos Dunlap, so they'll be looking for him to give them a little bit more of a kick in the pass rushing game. Russell Wilson, he's got a good record against San Francisco in his career. He's 13-4, including the playoffs. So a really good record there against the Niners. The Niners, they've righted the ship with back-to-back quality wins. If they can win this one and go to 5-3 and knock Seattle to 5-2, they're well and truly back in this division after some people put a line through them a few weeks ago when they had all their players go down, or a bunch of really important players go down, including myself. But it just goes to show, when they get some of their better players back healthy, some of their skill position guys, they've got Jimmy Garoppolo, who's playing okay. He's a little bit up and down, but he's playing okay, and the offensive line has improved as well. This is still a good team. I don't think they're in Super Bowl contention anymore. I stand by that. I think they're looking up at probably 2 or 3 teams that are better than them. But I think they can win this game against Seattle. I'm not going to pick them. I'm going to pick the Seahawks to be a little bit angry after that loss last week. But I think this will be a very close game, and we had 2 games last year between these two teams that were absolute beauties, particularly that first one that went to overtime and went all the way down to the wire. I think this will be another good one, another match of the round contender, but I think Seattle will win. New Orleans at Chicago. Chicago 5-2 somehow. The Saints 4-2 is in Chicago, like I said. Wide receiver for the Saints, Marquez Callaway, he's made the most of his opportunity with Michael Thomas not playing, and he finished with 8 catches for 75 yards in an impactful performance that hopefully, for his sake and the Saints offense sake, it should warrant some continued playing time. Even if Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders return, Michael Thomas did return to practice this week, so it looks like he'll be okay to go tomorrow. So if they can find another guy in Marquez Callaway to give them some pop down the field, that's good for them. Alvin Kamara having a tremendous season. Not too many people are talking about him, but he's having a great season. He now has 5 straight games with more than 100 yards from scrimmage, and it's bad news for Chicago because their defense 84.1 rushing yards per game this season, which is the fewest in the league. So that's good news for them. Sorry, bad news for the Saints. Although it'll be interesting to see how we go there with a strength on strength battle. Chicago, average team, like I said, with a very good defense, and it's a combination that has been good enough to get them to 5-1 before they lost to the Rams last week, who are a good team, and now they play another good team in the Saints. So we'll learn a little bit more about Chicago. It is at home, but I recall the Saints went there last year into Chicago, and they did a number on the Chicago Bears. That was with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. Drew Brees this time around, of course. I think the Saints will win this one. I feel like they're coming out of the bye, and they're just starting to sort of pick themselves up and starting to build into the season. And another team that has sort of been a little bit sloppy out of the gates this year, but I think that they're going to get better and better. New Orleans. There were a lot of people's tip to get to the Super Bowl, including mine, and some people have gone a little bit cold on them, but no, I think they're still well and truly there in contention, and they're going to get better and better, and they're going to win this game, I think, over Chicago. Sunday night football. How about this for a beauty? Not Dallas at Philadelphia. Dallas 2-5, Philadelphia 2-4-1. This is the battle for the first place in the worst division in football. I said earlier that I have a stat that really paints the picture as to how bad this division is, and here it is. The NFC East is now the first division in NFL history to not have a 3-win team through 7 weeks. Can you believe that? They don't have a 3-win team through 7 weeks. This is a bad division, and there's going to be a team who wins this division and likely gets a home playoff spot. So that's incredible. Don't know about that. Dallas, they have now given up 25 or more points in each of the last 6 games, and they gave up 20 points in the first half alone to Washington. When Washington's putting up points on you, you know you're bad. Wentz, his stat line from last week over the final 2 drives, 5 for 721 yards, 2 touchdowns, 153.3 passer rating. So he finished the game strongly against the Giants when they really needed him to. The Eagles, they now have a wide open path to the NFC East title and a home playoff game, possibly. They just need to find a way to get to 7 or 8 wins, and I think this will be another win here at home on Sunday Night Football over the arch nemesis. And then bringing up the rear on Monday Night Football, the Bucks and the Giants in New York. Daniel Jones has been struggling. He had that runaway would-be touchdown and then fell over on the grass, and I'm worried that might be the sort of lasting legacy of his career in New York. I hope not. The Giants, they're scoring 11.8 points per game against non-divisional opponents this season, which is not many. And the Bucks, they've got a championship caliber defense, and they've got Tom Brady, who is in really good form at the moment. And they've got Antonio Brown as well, who will suit up for the first time. That was a really big get for them last week, I think that was. So the Bucks, I think, will get another big win against the Giants. On the bye this week, Washington, Arizona, Jacksonville, and Houston. So that's the slate of games for week 8. When I come back, I'll have a look at college football, and I'll answer some of your questions as well as we look to wrap up here on Talking American Footy with me, Brent Sternberg. You're listening to KC Radio 97.7 FM. Welcome back, gang. You're listening to Talkin' American Footy with me, Brent Sternberg, on KC Radio 97.7 FM this Sunday night, where we've been going through and having a preview of tomorrow's Week 8 contests, a slate of games that is stacked with divisional games, and that's always exciting because, of course, divisional games always mean a lot, and they're always, well, not always, but they are generally really close fought and some exciting games. So it looks like it's going to be a terrific slate of Week 8 matchups. We'll turn our attention now, like we normally do in the final segment of Talking American Footy, and have a look at college football, which it was Week 8 as well in college football last week, and we have the Big Ten join us for the first time in 2020. They were back in action, so we have all conferences back now, bar the Pac-12, which will be back in a couple of short weeks. So that'll be good to have the whole family back together. So we'll run through and have a look at some of the big results from last week, starting with Big Ten action. Wisconsin, they've started the year ranked 9 in the nation. They beat Illinois in conference play 45-7. In the ACC, the number 1 ranked side, Clemson, with Trevor Lawrence doing his thing there. They beat Syracuse 47-21. The big news during the week, on Friday, actually, is Trevor Lawrence tested positive for COVID-19. So you may remember during the off-season, he was one of the really outspoken guys about wanting to play. He was also involved in the organising Black Lives Matter rallies on the Clemson campus. He's had a big off-season with some sort of social issues like that. But he was keen to play, and now he's caught this virus. On Twitter, he said that he's okay, but not well enough to play, obviously, and won't or he didn't start for the Tigers earlier today. So we'll wait and see if he only misses one game, but that's a little bit of a dagger. He's probably the biggest name in college football right now, and is the number 1 draft pick, or thought of as the number 1 draft pick, and he's getting the virus. So that wasn't great. But they beat Syracuse last week 47-21. The University of North Carolina beat North Carolina State 48-21. Oklahoma, they were back on the winners list. They beat TCU 33-14. Ohio State, they were back in action, and Justin Fields, the other quarterback there, he looked fantastic. He was magnificent last year. Went really close. I think he finished second behind Joe Burrow in the Heisman Trophy, and had a good year. And he through one game, he looks even better than he did last year. He looks brilliant. And he orchestrated Ohio State a win there, 52-17 over Nebraska. Kansas State, who were ranked 16, they beat Kansas 55-14. Coastal Carolina beat Georgia Southern 28-14. Marshall, who are ranked as well, 19, they beat Florida Atlantic 20-9. Oklahoma State beat Iowa State 24-21. Notre Dame made light work of Pittsburgh, who were having a poor year, 45-3. Notre Dame are ranked number 4 now. Indiana, in a thriller in overtime, beat Penn State 36-35. Alabama had their way with Tennessee 48-17. Utah State, they went down to Boise State 42-13. Michigan, they beat Minnesota 49-24, and they've got a pass rusher, a couple of pass rushers actually, Wolverines, who are making a name for themselves through one game, albeit just the one game. Quiddy Paye, I think is how you say it. He's a pass rusher there, and on the other side, Aiden Hutchinson, who are both catching the eye of the scouts. So keep an eye out for those two pass rushers if you're a fan of a team who needs pass rush help, of which there's a lot of teams. The University of Miami, the Hurricanes, they beat Virginia 19-14, and Cincinnati ranked 7. They're having a good year. They've got a quarterback by the name of Desmond Ridder, who played okay last week, and I think he had a rushing touchdown, a 94-yard rushing touchdown. The Bearcats beat SMU 42-13. BYU, they beat Texas State 52-14. They have a quarterback who has emerged almost out of nowhere by the name of Zach Wilson, and he has put his name on the radar of a lot of scouts, as well as a lot of people suggesting that he might be one of the really early picks. So that was college football in week 8, with the Big Ten back in action and the Pac-12 set to join us in a couple of short weeks. Okie dokie, your questions, gang. You sent through some this week. If you want to send questions through to me, at theboylives_26 on Twitter, if you want to have your questions answered, and we've got a few questions sent through this week. The first one from Jesse: do you think we'll have any big trades made before the trade deadline? Well, we've already had a couple of, I guess you could call them midterm or mediocre level trades, I suppose, with Ngakoue going from Minnesota over to Baltimore, and Seattle made the move for Carlos Dunlap. We generally do see big trades made on the eve of the deadline, and it's generally guys who are on the franchise tag that teams don't think they can sort of get a long-term deal done. It's guys that have big contracts coming up or are on big contracts that teams tend to, they think that they would prefer to shred that particular contract. I've seen a couple of really surprising names thrown up in terms of not necessarily being on the trade block, but maybe guys that teams should look at trading. One of which, the reigning defensive player of the year, Stephon Gilmore, who the Patriots signed a big money a couple of years ago now, and there's some murmurs there. I don't think Bill Belichick would entertain offers for Stephon Gilmore. He's having another okay year, and he's one of, if not the best cornerbacks in the league. JJ Watt has been another name that I've seen bandied around. If I was JJ Watt, he's done so much for that football team, and he's done so much for that city, but I wouldn't be opposed to getting out of Houston and maybe going to a contender. He's been pretty injury prone the last sort of 3 or 4 years, but he's healthy this year, and he's a good player when he is healthy. So I think maybe a team could look at him. I'm not too sure. I haven't really heard too much in terms of like real sort of bombshell trades. They're ones that normally come out of nowhere anyway. So I haven't really read anything in terms of big trades before the deadline. This next one from Justin: is there one big trade you think a contender should make? Should make? I'm not sure. I look at a team like Green Bay, and I still think they would do well to perhaps maybe pull the trigger and trade for a wide receiver. I reckon they could probably maybe coax Cincinnati into trading AJ Green. AJ Green's had a good couple of weeks. And I reckon they could probably get him out of there, the Packers out of Cincinnati without having to give up a first round pick. So that I think would make a lot of sense. I don't really see too many of the contenders who, would go out of their way to give up some really high draft capital to get in a player at a certain position other than maybe the Packers at wide receiver. Seattle, perhaps a defensive player, but I don't think one player is going to come in and fix their defense. Plus, they don't have a first-round pick for the draft next year because they gave that to New York, the New York Jets for Jamal Adams, who's out at the moment injured. So, I'm not too sure. If I was the Packers, I'll be sniffing around for a wide receiver. Baltimore, maybe, do they want offensive line reinforcements? Pittsburgh with Devin Bush going down, could they maybe look at some help at linebacker? I'm not sure, but I further to the answer to the question before, I'd keep an eye on JJ Watt because I think JJ Watt could perhaps go to a contender and make a difference there. This next one's from Nathan. Who are the quarterbacks in college to watch besides Lawrence and Fields? Well, that's a good question, and it's a timely question as well. After what I mentioned earlier with Zach Wilson. So he's playing for BYU, Zach Wilson, and he is a name that I'm seeing pop up in a lot of mock drafts and early in mock drafts as well. And this is about the time of year last year where people were talking about Joe Burrow as a first-round caliber quarterback, and a lot of people were sort of thinking, oh, gee, wow, he's sort of come from nowhere. And then we know what happened. He ended up going pick 1. So I'm not saying he's going to take the same trajectory as Joe Burrow, but he's certainly having a really good season and putting up some good numbers. He is there will be questions asked about the level of competition though, like there always seems to be of those lesser, or not lesser quarterbacks, but quarterbacks that aren't playing for Clemson or Notre Dame or Ohio State, for example. So Nathan Wilson is one to watch. Zach Wilson is one to watch. The other one, of course, is Trey Lance, but I'm sure you guys have heard a lot about him. He's not going to play this year, but he will have played one sort of showcase game. But he's only played 1 year of football as a redshirt freshman last year where he was fantastic. But, there's a bit of a risk there. And he has, I think I remember reading, he has declared for the NFL draft. So there's a little bit of a risk there, but he is dripping with talent and potential. So I have no doubt that he'll be a first-round pick, risks aside. And the final question this week is from Rick. What do the Patriots do at quarterback? I'm assuming Rick is asking for the rest of the season. I'm not sure. I think they're going to stick with Cam Newton and stay in the season as long as they can. They're still in the division. And this is a big game this week coming up against Buffalo. If they start to fall away, Bill Belichick's a savvy sort of guy. I think they'd probably turn their attention maybe to Jarrett Stidham and really give him a long stint at the position and see what they've got. Cam, he's played okay this year, but he got COVID and then has fallen away the last 2 weeks. So unless he has some sort of resurgence, I don't think they will go with Cam Newton next year. I spoke a couple of weeks ago about what they do in terms of drafting a quarterback. I'm not sure. I don't think Bill Belichick does not strike me as a guy who will spend real big draft capital at the quarterback position. He will spend early picks on some positions, but not the quarterback position. So it's an interesting time there at New England at the quarterback position, really, for the first time, this century. So okay, gang. I'm about to head off quickly tomorrow morning. Some really good games. 7, 5 a.m. is the New England at Buffalo game. That should be a good one. And over on ESPN, you've got Baltimore the Steelers at Baltimore. So 2 really good ones there early on. Then at 8:30 on 7, mate, you've got New Orleans and Chicago. And on ESPN at the same time, you've got Seattle, San Francisco. And then, of course, Sunday night football, Dallas and Philadelphia, 2 teams that just need to find a way to keep winning games. And then Monday night, the New York Giants and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That is week 8, and that's the episode for Talking American Footy. I'll see you next Sunday night from 10 p.m. where we'll have a chat about everything that we saw on Talking American Footy with me, Brent Sternberg, on Casey Radio 97.7 FM. I'll see you next week, gang. Bye-bye.